Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me tonight, it's my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Doing very well. That was a nice, tasty week 8. That felt proper. A nice, like,
Oh
kind of
yeah,
we're getting to the midpoint, maybe the conclusion of the first act of the NFL season. It felt right to maybe like turbocharge. And if you look at next week's schedule, it's like, okay, maybe we can keep the good times rolling. So week
I
8
saw
was
you and
nice.
Solak doing that. We can't do that.
Super
Let's
card.
focus on what's happening right now
Super
before
card. We
you
got
get me
loser
thinking
leaves
about what's
leaves
coming around the
town.
end here.
I think we got a cage match in there. I mean, we got some great stuff. We got a lucha match in there somewhere. No, it's next week is gonna be fantastic.
No buys this week, and I get spoiled when we have 3, 4, 5 teams on bye
Right.
because that early slate has like that perfect like 6 games. You can keep track of everything that's going
I know.
on. And today, which is back to the Millhouse meme where everything is just fully just washing over you on that early slate. But we had some really interesting results both in that slate and in the afternoon that we wanted to dig into here. So we'll talk about a couple performances that really stood out a little bit later in the show, but the big picture takeaway that I have from week 8, and this is a discussion that was kind of happening on the internet after the afternoon games wrapped up, is that it doesn't feel like we have any juggernaut like teams in the NFL. And I think the losses by both the Chiefs and the Niners today are the best indications of that. But think about some of the other teams in the league that we've considered elite at one point or another. This season for so many fan bases is it's so fucking over. We're so fucking back every single week. That's what it's been. Every team has felt like that. After the Bills lost to the Patriots last week, there was so much consternation among their fan base. They go out. I know they only won by a touchdown, one Hail Mary away. The Bills looked really good on Thursday night. They looked very good. If you watch that Bills offense, you got to feel pretty good when you consider the rest of the NFL. Other teams, Dallas gets torpedoed by the Niners a few weeks ago. We're like, oh man, this is it. Like Mike McCarthy, this is a disaster. What are the Cowboys going to do? It's another lost season.
More Dak contract talk. It's like whenever that happens, that's how you know it's like that's a checkpoint game right there.
That happens. Dallas today destroys the Rams. The Eagles lose to the Jets. There's so much discussion about their offense, what's happening. They let Washington move the ball on them today, but the Eagles are 7-1. So it just feels so wide open after these games today. But I think the biggest reason for that is two teams that really felt like they were at the top of their respective conferences when we did the hierarchy reset that we did a few weeks ago, were San Francisco and the Chiefs. And both of those teams now I think look increasingly mortal for different reasons. And that was kind of on full display today.
Yeah, I feel like if you've had any take about the top teams, like the top half of the league teams, you'd be correct at some point this season. Like
very wrong.
Very wrong.
There's some skeletons in the take closet this year that are not doing so good.
It's they're all over the place. And that's what's kind of been like, we hit on the offense and the lack of offense. And I think a lot of people are kind of noticing and a lot of red zone frustrations, lack of touchdowns there. And I think that's, defense has struck back. They struck back even harder this season. It's been a kind of a multi-year thing. And it kind of has felt that maybe that's why there's been so much frustration. When there's no points, then it feels tight. Everything just doesn't feel right. You feel claustrophobic, and then there's turnovers in the red zone. It feels like every team has had them. And it feels like that's like, I feel like I'm a broken record sometimes on this show when it's like, hey, what's this team's issue? It's like, they moved the ball well, turnover in the red zone. I looked it up. I thought I was onto something like, whoa, this might be the most turnovers within the 30-yard line or something like that. Like 2007, it was obnoxious. There was like 80 more turnovers through that. So it's like, we're in better times still. But I think that's what it is. You're looking at some really, really good defensive units, a lot of improved units. And then you just have inconsistent offenses like the Eagles, who are 7-1, just feel incomplete in some ways, especially on offense. And that's with some of their players going bonkers week in, week out, and it feels okay, or it looks okay in the end result. But then when you watch it, it doesn't feel okay. You feel kind of some consternation. And they're 7-1.
Fans feel 7-1, even after the way the last 2 weeks have gone. I don't think they feel 7-1 because of how uneven the first month was, and when they're undefeated. There's been a lot of worry and concern among the Eagles fan base.
Yes,
maybe that's just it. That's specific to the Eagles fan base.
Yeah.
But I do think that they are a good example of this.
It's very Philly that I've been criticized after last year being too hard on them. And then like I came around in the end was now this time Eagles fans are yelling at me and said, you're too easy on them. Like they aren't. No, they're not doing well. And it's like, oh, that's so Philly. EC dub. Like that's just exactly how they are. But every fan base has had that. Chiefs fans, who I still feel great about their team, they still have some frustrations. You have Patrick Mahomes, like worst game like by like one of his worst games of his career. If you just look at what we look at success rate and like EPA and stuff like that. So it's just like every team, even the ones that I think are very good, are just not, they feel all incomplete or the inconsistent, which I actually think it's very fun because it's truly any given Sunday, Monday, or Thursday.
Let's talk about those teams that had disappointing losses today and maybe have gotten knocked down a peg in people's minds. Let's start with the Chiefs. Concern coming out of this game, like real concern about the offense against what was on track to be a historically bad defense for the Broncos through the first 4-6 weeks of the season?
No, I mean, just a little concerned that they're having some inconsistencies. You know, Sky Moore is kind of just not, it's showing that he can't really be relied on, even outside the drop. He had a route where against Surtain that Mahomes should not have challenged. But I think this team so far this year, offense, defense, and special teams, even special teams this year, the Chiefs kind of had a big bounce back year after kind of struggling last year. I trust this team. It's got a good defense, good special teams. Like I said, the O-line's still there. They're improving. The Mahomes is still Mahomes. Even if he had a bad day today, he was sick. I'm not going to blame that always on them, but
he had that bad
I didn't either
today. The interception that he threw was
the stat
awful.
didn't match the eye test. Like I look at
I agree. I agree with that.
I felt like that was a pretty good day, and it was like that's when bringing up the stats a bottom 5 day, which is weird.
The interception was bad. That was just the type of decision you don't normally see from him. But they had a couple, again, 3rd and short miscues in plus territory that just continue to happen. A shovel pass to Rashee Rice. They had a 3rd and 2 swing to McKinnon that creates a tackle for loss. They have a fumble in the red zone in the final minute of the first half again, and they're still in this game. If McCole Hardman doesn't drop that punt, we're having an entirely different conversation. He came out after the game and took credit or took blame for the loss. So I know it's a bad day, but again, 3-4 swing plays. I will say he had a 3.38 second time to throw today. Mahomes did. They did not have anything within rhythm within the offense today.
I agree.
That was my biggest concern. And I wonder, you talk about Sky Moore, okay? Trade deadline's Tuesday. You think they should go try to see what's out there at let's call it complementary receiver pieces. That's what I'm calling McCole Hardman. He's a complementary receiver, more of a
auxiliary
every down player. Yes, an auxiliary pass catcher. Do you think it is worth them potentially looking into a real starting, I can play 60 snaps for you a game receiver to put within their offense?
I think, they have to listen to calls or maybe get creative, but I think they're betting on Rice.
I think that's exactly right.
I think that's it. I think he's the number 2, and I think they think that too. And it looks like it. And I think he had a drop today or a one play that stood out, but he had so many positive plays as well. And he's stacking it up week after week, and he keeps ascending week after week. So I think he kind of represents that he's a rookie, a day 2 rookie, and that they are betting on maybe some inconsistencies, but in the long run, like in the second half of the year, it's going to really pay dividends. So I don't think they need to be aggressive, but they'd listen. I think would be a good way to put it.
I agree with you. And I was having a conversation with somebody about that today. And I just think that you don't want to cut off development opportunities for young, highly drafted guys who've shown flashes. Yeah. And I think they're comfortable with their timeline and the pace at which they're doing this stuff. And if you look at the way the last 2 years have gone, they should be. They have earned the benefit of the doubt with how they're looking at these sort of plans on a team building from a team building perspective.
I do want to watch their run game, because the run game has been a little up and down this year. So, but I think I'm betting them on the long run, especially after the bye week. They have so many good players.
Like go ball, bad luck on defense. So penalties on some of those plays. I'm not. I feel the same way as you do.
The Chiefs. Okay, yeah,
I feel the same way that you do. But this is the conversation that's happening right now, right? When these teams lose, this is kind of all right. Everyone's getting pulled down into the muck.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the Niners are actually getting pulled down into the muck in a way that the Chiefs are not, in your estimation?
I'm the running on the Niners defense is a little worrisome. I think that is going to be a problem. I think how they play style. I think maybe that's some exchange with Hargrave and his play style. That's a little more upfield, more aggressive, but that's the trade-off.
Look at the Eagles' run defense this year compared to last year. He's a great player, but he has specific strengths.
Gap shooter guys like kind of have that trade-off. You're going to get you're going to strike out a lot, but then you're going to hit a lot of home runs. But I look at that offense, and even at a day today with the turnovers with Purdy, they're all happening at once. He's always had these kind of moments where he's getting near turnovers, and it felt like, again, 2 weeks in a row that he's kind of like all spurred out the worst moments. They're moving the ball again fine.
They averaged 8 yards a play.
They were oh my god, I I know we'll talk about that game later. They were moving the ball so well, and that's why I'm not concerned about them too much. But I will say the rush defense is a little concerning because that has been kind of a thorn in some quality defenses and quality team sides over the long run, but I still think they're very good.
Yeah, and the defense in general, I think, is worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah.
It took a while to get here where there was a little bit of concern about them, but coming into the season, this is why I wasn't ready to just throw them in as like, this is the best team in the NFC. They're going to be who they were last year.
Yeah.
They lost the defensive coordinator. They have some turnover on
Yeah.
that side of the ball. So I think it's just worth remembering that even though they were great over the first 4 to 6 weeks, this is always something that could creep up. So I'm kind of with you. And I also, it's so funny that he had the 2 terrible interceptions. It's one of the reasons they ultimately lose the game. I was more impressed with Brock Purdy today for 95% of the game than I have been with him in most of the games he has played in the NFL.
2 weeks in a row for me watching him. Even the Vikings game, I watched him. I was like, dude, he made some real deal throws here.
Big boy throws.
Yes.
And what he was doing with his legs, he was extending a bunch of plays in this game.
Yep.
I thought that he was a real positive influence on this game for all but like 2 or 3 snaps. So I know that those are really important 2 or 3 snaps, but I think it's important to just kind of keep the big picture when we're looking at him and when we're looking at this offense specifically. They had, I believe, they had the best offensive success rate of any team in the NFL today. The San Francisco 49ers did. They averaged 8 yards per play, which was the best mark in the league in week 8. So just something to keep an eye on. As we're looking at,
I'm sorry. I look at like combined success rate and explosive play rate. It's just a simple stat I look at, but they were, I think
you
this
show
game
me
was
where that is, by the way.
Okay. I call it OPS because I call it OPS, like on base plus slugging, because I just couldn't think of another name for it. But I think this game was like the 4th best game of the season that any team has had. So it's like they're okay at offense.
And they left stuff on the field that you picks off the dome on a random play that he typically is complete. So, all right, let's look at the teams now, maybe a slight step down from those teams, because that's the most important conversation here is, are those teams really getting dragged down to the level of the Seahawks, the Lions, these NFC teams, the Cowboys that are all 5-2? Do you feel like it is as bunched up as maybe some people were communicating it to be this afternoon after a couple of those teams lost, where we really have no teams that have separated themselves from the pack?
I do. I feel like because of the units that where a lot of these teams have good defenses, like, so that's going to keep games tight just naturally. And so I think the one team that maybe is in this upper tier or the upper middle class, whatever you want to call it, the Dolphins, they have a fantastic offense. We know that it's very explosive, but they have a defensive blemishes. Yes, Jalen Ramsey's back, but you can get after that defense. It's been kind of proven week in, week out. So
I moved the ball a little bit today.
Yeah.
It's bad turnovers, but they moved the ball a little bit today.
So it's like, yes, you bet on that offense, but it's a lot of these other teams are kind of balanced in both ways that it's not as easily you can just pick after them, if that makes sense. So I think that bunches everybody to the middle, that it's like, everybody has good units, especially the teams at the top. Sometimes we have these teams in the middle that just have outstanding defense and terrible offense. I'm sure we'll talk about some on the show, but like kind of this group in the middle has 2 good units or a quarterback and a good defense, some pairing of that I think that's why I think it does feel tight. And I think that's apt. Like, I really agree with that opinion that other people have.
It's a couple of other teams we haven't even mentioned yet. Think about what people were saying about the Jags.
Yeah.
At points early in the season. The Jags now are tied for the best record in the AFC. They're 6-2 right now. And I think that they're playing really good ball. Trevor, again, had a really nice game. He had several great moments. I thought their offense did a very good job. It was nice to see them. Remember, we had the conversation about him as a mutter, him being able to play in the elements.
Yes.
Him having this sort of game and their offense having this sort of game in the rain is weirdly encouraging to me.
It is.
So you have the Jags, so it's like, all right, we got some moments. The Ravens destroy the Lions last week. A weird game today against Arizona, admittedly, but they're 6-2. So it just feels like everything is bunched up right now. And the NFC kind of feels like that as well. You know, you have this game from the Niners where it's like, all right, maybe the defense isn't what we thought it was. And, if the offense is going to have some worse turnover luck and Purdy's going to have some blemishes that maybe we haven't seen so far, how close are they to a Seattle team that won a very hard-fought game against a really good Browns defense today? The Cowboys, again, look elite in some of these moments. So it all feels really bunched up. It all feels really tangled. And for my money, I love it.
I love it.
I absolutely love it, because it just feels like this could go any direction.
That's what's awesome about it, because I can see, and it's really cool, because we've kind of hit on this, especially with defenses, is that a lot of teams found some weaknesses that they had and they try to improve it, and I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool. It's kind of like a nice continuation of last season, but I really think this Jags team is really good. I love this defense. Again, the Steelers offense isn't much to write home about, but it's still
Ooh.
they make their presence felt. Like, this Jaguars defense has that attitude right now. And I love that all three levels are impacting games now. Yes, we can talk about the sack rate stuff, but they're all doing stuff, which is really cool. That DB group is playing really good ball, which I'm sure we might hit up on the halfway awards talk maybe in a couple of weeks. But I love the defense. I love Trevor, of course. I think the offense is explosive in the run game, can be inconsistent at times. But again, I think now football right now is a race to explosive plays. When that is the most scarce resource, it's play good defense and a race to explosive plays, run game or pass game. That's kind of what ball is right now. And if you can do that, these are the teams I'm betting on, and the teams that I think are going to have a chance at the end when the dance starts.
With this tightly packed group, it makes the next few days before the trade deadline really compelling.
Yes. Oh,
because
yes.
if you're the Bills and you know your offense is capable of the sort of performance you had on Thursday, and you feel a little uneasy about your defense, you make a couple calls. Can you go get a corner somewhere? Can you find maybe a linebacker? Some solutions to these issues that you're facing. You're the Jags. You make that Josh Uche call potentially and say, can we get just a little more juice in our pass rushing group? I talked about this today. It's never going to happen in a million years because they just don't operate that way. I just want the Bengals to call about like Logan Thomas. Just like, can you just go get me like a functional tight end?
Was the Irv Smith fumble
functional tight end? I'm done.
That was it.
I'm done. I've been done. So those sorts of moves that could potentially be on the horizon here, I think it's going to be a really, even if nothing happens, I think there's going to be a lot of intrigue around what happens over the next couple of days. So
absolutely
good stuff, man. As we get toward the midway point, having all of these teams with real life, I think is definitely something to keep an eye on.
It's, put it this way, like when I did like a kind of quote unquote power rankings before we kind of were prepping for this segment, I couldn't really tier them that easily or number them that easily at all. I think that's awesome. Good quarterbacks, like offenses, just have to be creative. They have to be creative, which means that means when we anoint people, like, they earned it this year. That's what the Dolphins are doing. It's pretty cool. But good defense. It's just good ball right now. Even if there is some sloppiness, it's fun right now. And I love that every Sunday is a challenge.
All right, let's talk about a couple of performances that really grabbed us today. It's time for You Have My Attention.
Gentlemen, you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
Every week, there's just a wall of stuff coming at you in an NFL. So we like to talk about a couple of performances that really kind of grabbed us by the short collar. And let's start with the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are back, baby. The Cincinnati Bengals, you have my attention. Biggest thing that jumped out to you about what the Bengals did to the Niners today?
That's why all Bengals talk up until this point was like, just wait to the bye week. Just wait to the bye week. Just wait to the bye week. Burrow's calf and how this offense is. Well, first off is how Burrow looks. He has looked better into the bye week, but now he looks 100% or as near to
nice. It was just so nice. Watching him over the first month of the season was such a fucking bummer. He's so good when he's good, and he's so good when he's right. To see him at 65% or whatever he was and unable to function within that offense, it was just depressing as someone who likes good ball. And to see that version of him out there today was so comforting and so much fun.
Yeah, and again, they're trying to tweak. We talked about the under center stuff on Thursday, and they were hitting that opening script. They hit it, kind of maybe shied away from it as the game went along, which I'll be interested to check out. I'm not sure if you have any numbers on that.
They ran 15 under center plays today. They had run 16 all season.
Yeah,
and
a lot of runs out of it.
So the most they had done all season. Talking to people there, I was wondering, it was a specific Niners game plan thing, and I think that they just wanted to introduce it for more variety, period. It was the same kind of stuff that we talked about last year, where they're very conscious of what their own tendencies are. So what can we introduce to start playing with those tendencies? And that was one of my biggest takeaways from this game. This coaching staff deserves our respect. Yeah. All these people in the first month of the year, when the quarterback wasn't operating and when they really couldn't do anything offensively because the playbook was so condensed, people were shitting all over them. And I'm like, guys, how fast we forget how good they've been at these little tiny pivot moments over the last couple of years. And I think today is another example of that, where they've done such a great job of trying to just slither for answers and just finding them in the cracks. And that sort of game plan today where it's like, we're going to play under center more because we know we need a little bit of a change up. Just another example for me.
Yeah, the run, like what you're saying, they know their tendencies. I mean, Chase's touchdown was a great example of it because, I mean, they've run that before, little fake bubble, the blocker runs a wheel route. Everybody kind of has a variation of it. But because it's more devastating because of how many bubbles and flats this offense throws throws right now. And because they're putting Chase into the slot so much more, the number 3 spot so much more, it's making those more devastating. But then it's kind of funny that they faked him as a blocker on that one and still got him to open up for a touchdown. But again, you're using tendencies and breaking them. There's another Jamar Chase catch, 10 of them today, but it was near the red zone or in the red zone. It's like a little crossing route. And kind of mentioned this, that they keep putting him at the number 3 spot, the tight end position area. And he chip helps. You have Jamar Chase chip helping.
I saw that. Yeah.
Most people would be like, you know what? How can you use Jamar Chase as a chip helper? If that happened in Atlanta, oh my goodness. So he does it. He chip helps. But what it does is because the 49ers are so, like, they use their own kind of tendencies and awareness of tendencies against them. Oh, a guy's chip helping. We can loosen up and get into coverage. And there's Jamar Chase.
Human nature. It's how you respond to that.
He chip helps. He's blocking. I don't have to worry about him running a route. That's the last thing I have to worry about. But then you realize, oh, it's number 1. And then he's running for an easy first down. So again, using tendencies, using this stuff off of it. And it's just, yeah. And the run game was good. Some good tendency breakers there and some good ways to influence Bosa and kind of keep him uneasy sometimes in the run game with jet sweep stuff. So really good game plan. Again, like you said, they've earned our respect, especially what happened last year. And again, coming out of the bye week. And so it's like, I wanted to see how they kind of did this after this bye week.
There was a stretch in the first quarter that I thought was very emblematic of just who they were today. Burrow slips out of like 3 different sacks on a single play, finds T. Higgins on the sideline on 3rd down, keeps the drive going. Next set of plays, a swing to Chase in the left flat, just an extension of the run game. They're very good at kind of getting him those touches now within the rhythm of their offense. Very next play, under center play action to Jamar Chase. How many under center play action plays do you think the Bengals had run before this game, this season?
This year? Oh, like 2.
1.
Okay.
1. Okay. There were 3 or 4 today. So they ran 4 times as many today as they had the entire season coming into the game.
Yeah.
Next play, after hitting that, they run a trap to Joe Mixon. Again, which against the Niners, that's the type of stuff that you can do well. They get guys upfield, chunk gain out of like a little 3-by-1 set that I thought was a very good way to just get linebackers out of the muck. They finish off the drive with a little slot fade to Tyler Boyd for a touchdown. Motion to get him there. Great play against Isaiah Oliver. Beautiful ball by Burrow. So all of that stuff combined, you have Burrow playmaking out of structure when necessary. You have smart designs that make sense as little tendency breakers, as game plan specific stuff. And then you have the quarterback being the quarterback on that final throw to Tyler Boyd, which he was all day today. I mean, this guy finished 28 of 32 for 283 offense, and he felt that good. That whole shot that he hit to Jamar Chase in the second half, just in stride, beautiful. Chase drags his feet. I'm like, we're back. Like, we are so back.
Well, the fact that he checked into a QB draw out of empty, that's when I was like, okay, he's feeling it. That was something they got to last year. They were using more as just a straight design runner, especially with the QB draw stuff. When you get, it was funny. It was the 49ers got caught on that. Like they were trying to like, okay, we're going to show pre-snap and we're going to do something funky post-snap. And like, I think they were showing man and they got to something else. But they show it and they show a light box. So Burrow checks to the QB draw on 3rd and long, but then actually the final result was something he did not want to check into, but it ended up working out because it was just like, so the 49ers played themselves and Burrow caught him. So that was actually pretty fun, but no one had eyes on Burrow on that one. So their whole run game was great. Like, I love that you brought up the trap play. Again, using the jet motion to influence Bosa on that. The toss plays, kind of getting some stuff outside, getting those guys going horizontal, the bubble stuff, like I mentioned, and they can get to the bubble stuff, and that helps out the run game is against the 49ers. So when they wanted to go into the gun, if the 49ers want to be in too high and you're putting the kind of the apex defender, which is the slot defender, into a choice there. Does he play the bubble or does he help out with the run game? So now he has to pick. He has to pick his poison. And now you have Joe Mixon coming downhill, or you have Jamar Chase running a bubble, and Jamar Chase breaks the first tackler every single time. So it's just simple football, but it's just
it really is. But
they're narrowing what they do.
Sense.
It's great. It was good stuff today. we knew it was coming, but it's good. It's good to see in action.
It's nice to see it though. To see him look that healthy and to see that game plan come together is very reassuring. On defense, I know that there's some people who are probably going to look at the final result and look back at the conversation we had against about the Bengals defense on Thursday and just be like, you didn't give them enough credit. Very similar results, though. I mean, the Niners moved the ball very consistently, but the Bengals got them a couple times. I mean, the pick that Purdy throws in the red zone, he just needs to put more loft on that ball. It's just a fluky play. The second interception, and I don't want to get too deep into the details because people obviously can't see this, but it felt like the Niners ran the wrong route. So you had two guys coming from left to right, and it feels like Jennings should run a shallow there, right? To yank the linebacker up, and Ayuk comes in behind it.
It was like they had two inbreakers. So they do dagger in a different way in that offense where it's like they kind of do an over with a dig behind it. So I wasn't sure if that got bad spacing. And the guy, I think I was supposed to have the inside.
That also could make sense.
Kind of pushed up. That was my first instinct, and that was kind of just what I went with. But that's another thing too, is that you don't know who's tagged as what. That's always the common mistake that happens. Oh, this guy moves around. Oh, I'm the F. Oh, and then he makes a mistake. He's actually the Z, and then they run.
It just feels like there should have been an underneath route in there because there was nothing to pull Wilson down. If they were trying to do like any sort of high low, there was nothing to pull him
underneath.
Down.
And the two guys were right next to each other too, and so there's no horizontal spacing, no vertical spacing. But that offense usually does such a great job of it. So it did feel like a bust or someone got collisioned into something bad.
Yeah. So again, that's just a offensive mistake that leads to
Purdy's trusted it. He was trusted it.
And that'll happen sometimes, right?
That's that offense. You have to pull the trigger on it, but it can bite you.
I don't no reason to get down this road now, but it's the conversation about whether it's actually anticipation or you're just throwing to where they're telling to throw you the ball, right? Like those are two different things. But I
interpretation. It's it's choose your adventure. That's how you want to go with it.
They did do some drop 8 in this game, which we assume they would. Yes. Mixed results, some huge chunk plays, but also a key third down incompletion early in the game. So again, there wasn't that many answers that they had that consistently slowed the Niners down. It was just a couple bounces of the ball, but what they did on offense, hugely encouraging.
How about all 4 of the Bengals wins have been against the West so far this year? That was NFC West.
All I care is that the wins are coming because guess what, buddy? Don't look now. I went 5-0 in the wins league this week.
This is why I haven't said a word about it. How the turntables.
It's why I have just been trying to reverse jinx myself every single turn. So now I think I'm only like a half game back.
Yeah, it's somewhere around there because someone had to buy.
The swing games are huge. It's the first one I won. I have the Bengals, you have the Niners. So for people who don't know, we picked 5 teams each, season-long wins league. I was in a big hole coming into this week, and I have clawed my way back into the
I was watching it, and I'm like, man, why? This game, I really don't, I'm just watching neutral, didn't wager on it or at all. And it's like the wins league actually, it hurts. It's like, it makes them, it's like, no, I don't want to feel this way. I want to just enjoy this game and everything. And now I have to feel something. Didn't want that.
That's why we did it. We need some actual stakes with this stuff.
I know.
Very big moment. Guess what? Tough break for me. I have one that I can't win next week. The Cincinnati Bengals play the Buffalo Bills on Sunday Night Football.
That's a fun
next
one
week, which is very exciting.
Yes.
So just one of a fantastic slate of Week 9 games. We'll have a lot of time to talk about that before we get there.
In case you want to see all the slate, just look at me or Ben Select's timeline, and we are hyping up next weekend's Week 9 is gonna be fantastic.
Let's get to another standout performance today. The Dallas Cowboys. You have my attention. We both had the same process with this game today.
Yeah.
Excited to watch it. Queued it up in my multi-view. Trying to figure out the multi-view today. I was like, how do I do this? Weird national games. I didn't expect Steelers Jags to be available to me nationally in the Midwest, but it was. So I'm trying to figure out my multi-view. By the time I get there, it's like 33-3. So that game's gone. And it's a game I really wanted to watch. I was excited to watch, and we only got like 5 or 6 plays. So going back to rewatch it in the same way that you did, what stood out to you about this version of the Cowboys team you got to watch today?
CD on the outside, CD Lamb working from the outside. That's
huge.
It's something they've been sprinkling in and seeing a little bit more.
Like an elite receiver. How about that?
He had 6 targets on the outside today, most of the season. These were the gains on those 6 targets: 17, 10, 21, 0, 26, 24. And it felt alive. It really did. And they were playing around with it. They're making him the true X. He scored his first touchdown as the true X, the isolated receiver. A lot
So
of they
nasty too.
was
So
great.
nasty. I mean, the crossover. I mean, the release is just absolutely disgusting.
I
That guy
I was
can ball. I
he's
want him
awesome.
to get 15 targets a game. He is
He's
so
great.
good.
I love CD. His touchdown was just. I was trying to describe it. It's just okay. 4 poach, the backside safety goes to the 3x1, but it's like that's easy enough. Like the guy, there's going to be a void there, but CD puts his own stank on it and puts it and wins so easily that's the double damage. That's why it seems like an easy touchdown. It's a great schematic thing, creating a void there. Classic combo 3x1 that the Cowboys did, but then CD's got to win, and like he did. And so that is just good old football. That's just good old one-on-one NFL matchups. Stars win those matchups and they make the plays. And I think Dak's playing some good ball.
Yeah.
you take out the
I was
49ers
really,
game. Yeah.
really excited about watching him today. I thought that his legs and him extending plays in this game, that combined with just how they use CD, that felt like the added dynamism to this offense that I want to see. Him extending as a scrambler, whether it be outside the pocket, whatever, combined with the way they use CD, that was the difference to me and why the offense specifically in this game felt a little different than it has at times this year.
Yep. I agree. It just had some more spark to it. And again,
Totally.
other bye week stuff. But yeah, I think these are two things that are hitting up on it. It's that CD and creating those explosives there. This offense they have to try and create explosives. So rather than a traditional offense, traditional NFL offense that this offense is, because it has still some of that Kellen Moore, Scott Linehan to it. Even, it's what they call it, the Gulf West Coast, the Gulf Coast or something like that. They call it the Gulf Coast offense, something like that. The Pirate Bay offense. It still has a lot of that 3x1. Like the Chargers and the Cowboys are more, and the Broncos and the Saints are cousins of each other offensively. But that creates a lot of opportunities for the X. This is why Mike Williams gets a lot of touches. Gallup isn't what he used to be. He's like 70% of what he used to be. So why create a lot of one-on-ones for him? Let's give him to CD. And then now look at how this offense. Now
It's a great call.
Brandon Cooks goes into slot, and now Michael Gallup goes to the Z spot. It all just kind of is working out, and you're seeing it kind of coming to fruition. They're creating explosives, which they need, and I'm really liking it. Some Jake Ferguson too. Great design of his touchdown.
The seam ball to Jake Ferguson was a beautiful throw. Beautiful
Yes.
throw. And Dak had a bunch of those today. One of the big CD completions. Again, this is post bye week stuff. Like, what can we steal? They just straight stole the Dolphins out motion. They used the tight end. I think it was Ferguson. Shot him out. So you have the cut split for CD against leverage. Little glance to him. It's an explosive play. It's like, oh, hey. Like we also have good players. If we put them in these situations, maybe the results will follow. And we got a lot of that today. So exciting performance from the offense. I was so encouraged by how the defense played overall, but also a couple specific guys on defense. I thought Deron Bland was insane.
He was great.
Insane.
Oh, I know. I couldn't believe it. It just kept being him. A lot of Cowboys DBs played well today. Like it was definitely their
Jordan
day,
Lewis had some really nice moments too.
That's who was standing out to me as well. The pick six was good. Kind of they messed with Stafford a little bit on it. They go into a stack alignment. There's certain ways you could play it. I think he was expecting what they call top hat, but all it is that Jordan Lewis on it would cover Kupp, who's behind, but instead he stays locked, and so he covers the point man. And that I think that messed with Stafford. And he thought the leverage was going to be different, and that creates a pick for Deron Bland, and that's why he was aggressive on it. But good stuff. The Micah Parsons sack, really cool look from them. It was a back-to-back scheme stuff here, but it was a kind of nice double whammy. They run a ton of man coverage. I thought they did a great job of man coverage today, but they varied up the looks rather than just have an inside linebacker, a safety run down, be that whole player in the middle. They loosened up Micah Parsons. They had him running over the offense guard in the center on it. But what they did is they dropped Armstrong as the hole player.
Yeah.
And so it's a double whammy. We get into one hole, we vary up the look. So Stafford sees kind of just presence there as Kupp's coming on his crossing route. So he doesn't want to throw it. Parsons gets home. It's a sack. So just nice little design tweak, creates a sack, loosens up Parsons. Just loved what the defense did today. Good game from the Cowboys.
It was a great play. It was a simulated pressure. They only brought 4, but you dropped Dorrance Armstrong back. But even on that play, Durant is on the crosser. Deron Bland follows that step for step. It's nice to have Armstrong there, but it wasn't necessary. So the pick six is the standout play from Bland. To me, it was all the work that he did in man coverage on crossing routes, working all the way across the field on Tutu Atwell specifically.
That Tutu one was great.
And I thought the other guy who really stood out just in coverage was Marquise Bell. So now they're playing without, I believe Leighton Vander Esch is still hurt. I should know that, but so they're playing without him. So now it's like, all right, we need off-ball players. Like, this is a concern, even if we're going to play a ton of dime. Thanks, Bauer. And Marquise Bell, who wears number 14 for them, which is hilarious watching a linebacker wear 14. He was really good in coverage on the second level of that defense today. So when you get those performances from Jordan Lewis, Marquise Bell, Donovan Wilson had a couple nice moments. That's when it all really starts to come together, because you're going to get that production from the pass rush. So I just loved what the complementary kind of auxiliary word we've used a couple times pieces on that defense looked like today against a Rams offense that's capable of playing very well.
It was, and I actually thought they would be an interesting matchup because all the man coverage. I was like, ooh, Cooper Kupp and man coverage. Oh boy, it's going to be a long day. They did a great job. Like we said, they varied up the looks, even if it's all their fastballs. But I thought all these role players stepping up is huge, and that's how you overcome when Diggs is out and Vander Esch is out. And again, they have such a strength with that pass rush. Even if they didn't go home a lot, that just creates so many advantages. And we had a Bones Fossil revenge game, John Wick game, with a little pump block. The return after safety was sick. Yeah, special teams swinging a lot of games right now. 3 phases right now, 4 phases if you're the Bears or the Bears fans.
I should look at where they are in special teams DVOA and how much it's affecting games. I assume it's pretty high because Turpin, I typically am anti drop the juice into the offense, like the returner as part of your offensive game plan. The gadget guy thing can go very wrong. Just ask everything about the Chiefs' short yardage game plan in every single week. I am pro Kevontae Turpin getting more touches.
He's great.
He is an exception to me. I think I want to see him sprinkled in even a little bit more to what they're doing on offense. Maybe it was the old world where we're not using CD right. There's a lot of Gallup targets and things like that. But even if we're transitioning to a better reality, I still think a little bit more Turpin as part of the plan is not a bad idea.
Well, it's CD's the X, and on the outside, then easier to get Turpin in there. Put him in the slot, give him a move around guy. See it, another little trickle down. But that Ferguson touchdown, by the way, the red zone designs from the Cowboys were very improved from what we've seen previously.
Well, thank God.
They were just classics. It was cool. It was big time 2009 Big Ten football vibes. A lot of 2 high coverages, a lot of 3-by-1 passing sets on passing downs. It was like no motion. I was like, yeah, this is nice. I feel at home with this football right now.
I will say, huge bummer to potentially have a Matthew Stafford injury that could affect both his season and the Rams season. So he hurt his thumb in this game. He did not play in the second half. And the Rams are a weird team.
They dialed up a Philly special for him with a bandage on his hand. That was unbelievable.
The Rams are a strange team. They've had some fantastic moments. It's been very uneven. They're sitting at 3-5 right now. They're semi-relevant in the NFC playoff picture, but purely from a football watching enjoyment standpoint,
up there,
not having Matthew Stafford for any stretch over the course of the rest of the season would not be fun. So just something to keep an eye on. Something else to keep an eye on. Cowboys Eagles next week. Another week 9 game to think about. So that is very exciting. All right, it's time for the stuff that maybe wasn't as fun for us to watch today, depending on your definition of fun. It's time for I'm Not Mad, I'm Just Disappointed.
We're still cool, man. We're still cool. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Some of the games that would typically fit here, we talked about earlier in the show. The Chiefs would typically land here, but their loss was so notable that you kick it up a notch. There was still something that we had to talk about today. That is the Jets-Giants game and how far it set back modern football.
Oh, that was terrible.
I'm so sorry for making you rewatch it. I'm so sorry. I feel bad. I genuinely feel bad for making you do that.
I had notes already ready before we were kind of going like, okay, we might talk about this game. I was like, don't you worry. I knew it was so bad. I had to go rewatch it. I had to at least look into how bad it was. It was so bad. Like there's a difference between like the Cardinals and them losing games because they're so entertaining and they do cool stuff on offense and defense. And then some of the stuff makes sense and how they have a plan for the young guys. And don't get me wrong, like Jets, the injury to Aaron Rodgers derails a lot of stuff, but the Giants, and it's a different type of losing. Like the Cardinals are a jobber to the stars. Like they lose like with fireworks and doing flips and then all this stuff. And then this is just sad. This is just bad. What happened in New Jersey today? It was rough. Man,
just unwatchable offense. I mean, just offenses that can't even,
and they almost
won. Function way too many times in these situations, but offense that can't even function. And the Jets won. And the Giants should have won the game.
They should have won.
That is the craziest part about this, is if there are not some like fluky plays at the end, the Giants absolutely could have won this game. I have some very, very great stats for you coming out of this football game. I hope you're ready for some of these. Okay.
I am. Yeah. I can't wait to hear yours. I have one good one. So I'm sure I knew you were ready to rock with this.
I'm going to crack my knuckles.
Okay.
Giants had a 4% passing success rate in this game. 4%. Going back to 2000, which is when we get the start of True Media stats, that is the worst passing success rate in a single game. The single worst.
Ever?
10 ever. Wow. There were 9 games since 2000 that have fallen under 10% success rate. Are you ready for them?
How many are Bears?
0 Bears performances.
Okay, I'm
One
ready.
Involves the Bears, but 0 performances from a Bears quarterback. Number 1,
Spurgeon win. Okay, now I want to hear this.
There absolutely is. Spurgeon win is the oldest one. A 5 for 16 Spurgeon win performance from the 2000 Cleveland Browns.
Oh, for the Browns. Oh, I remember his days with the Vikings. That was some really fun performances there too.
There was a 2005 Bears performance, and I was a little worried because the 2005 Bears offense was often very bad with Kyle Orton in his second season. Fortunately for me, it was on the other side of a Bears-Niners game in 2005. Somebody named Cody Pickett went 1 of 13 against the Bears in a game in 2005. That was also under 10%. Okay. There was a 7 of 14 David Carr performance against the Raiders in 2006 when he was with the Texans. Eli Manning went 9 of 25 in a game against the Saints in 2006 to fall under 10%. This one,
I remember that one.
I would love to go back and watch this game. Combined in 2009, playing against the Patriots while they were on the Titans, Kerry Collins and Vince Young went 2 of 14 combined in a game against the Patriots. I would love to go back and watch that. 2010, Bengals Jets. Okay. Carson Palmer starts the game 1 of 11, comes out of the game.
Okay.
JT O'Sullivan comes in for Carson Palmer. They end up finishing below 10%. A combined Trace McSorley RG3 joint for the Ravens against the Steelers late in the 2020 season.
I remember that one.
Very famously, not surprising, the Kendall Hinton game against the New Orleans Saints. But this game from the Giants was worse than any of those, including the Kendall Hinton game against the Saints.
Magical. I knew it was historical. That's why it was enjoyable to watch. This was the room. Tommy DeVito had a negative 2.2 ADOT today, average air depth. And he had another fun with that. He had the highest QBR of the day and the highest EPA per play of all the quarterbacks
in that game because of the scrambles.
Yes, it is higher. Negative 2.2 ADOT. It's like this game was magical. Okay, what other stats you got?
Their average air yards to the sticks in this game?
Yeah.
Negative 9.1.
Negative 9.1.
The lowest mark in a game since they started tracking the stat in 2006. Negative 9.1. And my other favorite one on this, my other favorite one by far. The Giants had 12 running plays today.
Okay.
On 3rd down and at least 3 yards to go. They ran the ball 12 times with 3rd and at least 3 yards to go.
Too much ice cream. I love a good 3rd and long run, like a 3rd and 6 run that catches
12 times they did it.
Too much.
That is the record since 2000. The previous record was 11. It has happened twice.
Okay.
If you thought about it, you could pick the games.
Oh, I was gonna say a Jets Mark Sanchez performance, maybe. No,
they're both
not
weather
a vintage 2009. No,
they're both weather based, and I'm talking extreme weather.
Mac Jones win game.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Mac Jones win game.
Okay.
Shady McCoy's snow game. Bills Colts in 2017, and there was some weather today. There was some weather in this game.
Yeah.
those were like cataclysmic biblical weather events we're talking about in the games where those teams were doing that. Today, you could throw the ball. The Jets could actually throw the ball. The Giants just elected not to.
The Saquon Barkley had 36 carries today and 3 catches for 0 yards. But there have been 13 running backs since 2013 that had 35 or more rushes. He had the lowest amount of rushing yards, total yards per carry, 1 explosive run on the whole day, and he ranked 11th out of 13th in success rate. There was a Frank Gore game with the Colts that is like, that's one I want to rewatch. 30-something rushes, like teen success rate, and he had 0 explosive runs on the day. So it wasn't even 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It's 2 yards in a cloud of dust. I also learned something new today, which was I was getting after the ref. The last play before the Jets spiked it, which was a little long, if you ask me, and a couple of guys were offsides maybe, but the center for the Jets spotted the ball, and all the umpire did was run up and touch it, tapped it, and they were able to snap it. I didn't know they changed that rule. I thought there had to be a movement, like an up and down. So change the rule. I learned something new today. Called out the refs, but I learned something new, and I think I brought about 200 people's attention at least to it.
The Giants absolutely could have won this game. They elect to kick 2 4th-and-1 field goals, one of which was a 30. I understand the 35-yard at the end. Like you kick the field goal, you put it away. I get it. You miss it. It's terrible luck. Them electing to kick a 47-yard field goal in the rain on the opening drive of the game when they had 1 yard to gain while Tyler Taylor was still playing, because this is before the Tommy DeVito experience began. I just don't get it. I just don't understand what is happening with this team. I know the offensive line is unworkable, right? Like that's the word I would use. It is unworkable to play an NFL game with the state of their offensive line, especially against this Jets defensive line. But that shouldn't impact some of the choices, decision-making, just operation that is happening in other areas for this team right now. I just don't get it.
It's just they're not watchable. I mean, you're used to this. This is like a 2021 Bears, 2020.
Calm down.
2020. This is maybe no. O2 Vikings is better than this. But this is like the weapons are just. We always say it was like, oh, they're built out of slot receivers, and you can feel that a little bit now, where there's not that just kind of like big play merchant that you can kind of just rely on. It's built to kind of.
And Waller's out.
Time. Yes,
Waller left with the hamstring injury. He's out.
And it's exactly what you want. You want a tight end with consistent quarterback play. That's your big play merchant through the passing game. So Jalen Hyatt was supposed to be that, but how he has to work, he has to be off ball. He has to move around. That requires some, different formation stuff. So you're already having a trickle down effect there. And on top of that, you just have the O-line woes. And it's just not watchable. It really is. And Tommy DeVito, I can't believe Tommy DeVito played an NFL game, like a lot of snaps too. That was just remarkable in 2023. We're not even into Halloween. We're not even December yet.
Much better. The Jets.
Yeah, right.
They were 0 for on third down for like a majority of this game. One of the single most dominant pass rushing performances I truly have ever seen by Dexter Lawrence.
It's ridiculous.
Going back and rewatching it, I'm watching the game and I'm like, he's in the backfield every play. Like every single play, he's creating pressure on the quarterback. So I went and looked it up. 14 pressures.
At least Zach Wilson does great with pressure, especially in his lap.
14 pressures.
Yeah.
So the fact that the Jets, I understand that they won this game. I know that they were down to their third center, and the guy's playing against the best pass rushing nose tackle I've seen in, I don't know. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
It's a good long while. The way that they
like a true nose. Yeah.
True nose. Just teeing off on the center every single play. I can't remember watching, and we had this conversation last year, but today was another example of this. I can't remember watching a guy affect the game this way. And 14 pressures. The Jets offense can't even play because of what he's doing to their interior, and they end up winning the game.
I think they had almost 99.9 something right win probability too. Giants did. They usually call that falconing. Or a Chargers game.
The New York Jets are 4-3.
Unbelievable.
4-3. The New York Jets.
Still watching the defense.
Still very much in it in the AFC playoffs.
I still like watching the defense at least. I'll just say that.
So part of me hates myself for going back and rewatching every single play of that game. Part of me really enjoyed it. So
it was good.
That's what we got.
I'm glad that the historical numbers was well worth it for this segment. So thank you for doing that.
All right, it's time to get to the Sunday Notebook, some of our news and notes from week 8. Let's do it. One of the biggest headlines. Oh, look at you.
Normal water back, not my jug.
Water bottle you're drinking out of right now compared to the barrel I've seen you lift to your mouth.
Got it back.
Maybe some of the biggest news of the entire day, and a real just blow to their season and to a team that was really enjoyable to watch recently, and that is Kirk Cousins tearing his Achilles reportedly, and he is going to miss the rest of the year.
Yep.
This has implications on several different levels.
Yep.
The Vikings now are left with this strange decision that they're going to have to make about what they want out of their year. A couple weeks ago, seemed like they were going to be sellers. Seemed like Danielle Hunter was likely going to be on the move for the right price. Vikings knew they could potentially take a step back this year. All the breaks that they got last season, they weren't going to happen again. The luck had swung all the way back, the pendulum. But string a couple wins together, offense starts playing really well. Maybe we won't sell off, and we'll just kind of see this through.
Yeah.
Now Cousins goes down, and I have no idea what they're thinking about themselves. Because you have Nick Mullins, who's hurt right now, as your backup. And then you have Jaron Hall, who's a 5th-round rookie, also on the roster. So now what do you do with the quarterback position? Do you still feel like without Kirk Cousins, you could be competitive enough in the NFC that it's worth trying to go find an answer outside of the building? Or was the way that Kirk Cousins was playing so central to why you were competitive that now it probably just makes more sense to say, this is supposed to be the reset year anyway. We'll play it out with what we've got. If we have to lose a bunch of games this year, there's an understandable reason why. Let's stay on our timeline. Let's not be deterred. If I had to guess, I think it's the latter.
Yes. I feel like they had the tough decision made for them. And that is because of the severity of their injury with Cousins. That kind of helps bring some clarity. That's an Achilles, or reported, as opposed to maybe a dislocated thumb or something of that sort, or it's a 4-week injury, a high ankle sprain, something where it's like, hey, whether we can weather the ship for maybe a month and get back right and go with that. So I think because of the severity of the injury and what your other options are, it's not, Jaron Hall is, he's a 25-year-old rookie. He's day 320. He does solid things, but it's not like he's a 2nd-round guy of the future that you drafted to sit behind Cousins that you want to get reps
as
to.
a dice roll. It's we don't have a quarterback of the future. We might as well get a lottery ticket out of it. See how it works.
Yeah. A cheap backup's not bad either, but it's not just a guy that
always be developing someone, I think, is why you draft a guy like that.
So you don't have Tommy DeVito. And that is like, honestly, that's why you do that. But I think that they, again, because of the severity of the injury, this decision that would have been so tough they can have some clarity that they can be a seller. Even if this team that I thought was really doing some nice things, especially on offense, Cousins was doing so much. Like he was playing really good ball. The run game has been
he was
so
operating at the line of scrimmage. Everything that they had put on him, again, central to their success was his experience and his time in this system. Now that gets completely erased. Even if you go out, let's say they say, we want to win. Can we go trade for Ryan Tannehill right now? That's not going to happen. But even if that was a hypothetical, so much of what they were was based on Kirk being in this offense for a year and a half. So I just don't think there's any way that you can really replicate that. No. The only move that is potentially interesting just as an idea is trading for Trey Lance. And the only reason I throw that out there is because they were considering doing it in the spring. That has been reported. They were looking at him. They couldn't get everybody on board because I think it was about, let's see this through with Kirk, right? Let's see this through with Kirk. Let's see how this year goes. So if you go get a Trey Lance, he's a better option potentially in the short term than any of the other players that you could acquire. And if it works out, you are potentially giving yourself a shot at the next quarterback without having to worry about how this draft unfolds. That's the only reason it's even arguable to me. I definitely do not think it happens.
No, I don't think so either, especially just Cowboys too. And I think they're the real reason, or a big reason of why the Cowboys went for Trey Lance was Dak insurance in case he goes down for a game or two or playoff stretch. So it gives you a fight. What you want, especially how the Cowboys play. I totally get that. They are in the season. They are all in for a team that's more. I also want to bring up too, is that Dane and I did a show on this last week on Prospects and Pros was, the QB3, there is a lot of names up there, but how high it is, in my mind, is not a first rounder right now. There is not a guy that I feel comfortable we pick him at 12 after Caleb and Drake go 1-2 or 1-2-3 or someone like that. Caleb Williams and Drake May. Caleb Williams from USC, Drake May from North Carolina, both very good prospects. So the QB3 thing is like, if it's a 2-horse race, what is the answer for the new quarterback, the new guy you build around? Then you might go into purgatory. But again, Kirk Cousins is an Achilles. It's not something you come back from 6 weeks or 6 months. It's an Achilles. It's very major. So I just think it's a very interesting situation, but are they bad enough to get all the way to the bottom there that you would need to, or can they get creative enough to find this next quarterback to bridge them to the future? That's why I'm really curious what they do.
Yeah, it's going to be a situation worth watching. I don't know how bad they're going to be without Kirk Cousins. I think they have a chance to be pretty bad without him, again, because of how central he was. And if they become sellers and they have another kind of purge of talent here over the next couple of days because they understand where they are. On the Kirk Cousins front, this is brutal.
Fun. Oh, contract year. Oh.
Because there are teams, we're going to talk about a team in a second here. The fit for him that I kept kind of coming back to, if the Ritter thing doesn't work out, like Atlanta, just drop him in. And the way that he was playing this season, there was going to be a real Kirk Cousins market. I mean, think about what Derek Carr got paid this offseason by the Saints. Kirk Cousins is playing at a much higher level than Derek Carr was last year for the Raiders. And Derek Carr made $40 million a year. Kirk Cousins is going to cash in this offseason from somebody. Somebody was going to pay him. Now that becomes much more complicated, which it just sucks. I mean, he's playing so well. He deserved to be rewarded for the way that he was playing.
This team was awesome to watch this last month, and the wins started happening. But like every underlying metric I was like, man, they're moving the ball. When I watch them, they look okay. They're explosive. The Addison stuff's working out. They're sprinkling Hawkinson. The run game looks great. I would say great, but much improved. But it looks good, much better. And again, Cousins was being a great trigger man, and he wasn't having. He had a couple. The fluky turnover against the Chargers at the end of the game, but it wasn't as much of that kind of bonehead Kirk that we see sometimes pop up at the worst moments. He had a couple, but it's not as much. And I think that's why it makes him seem just even more explosive, a little better weapons. But even the game against the 49ers without Justin Jefferson, you saw Kirk Cousins, like you saw him controlling a game.
Played some of the best ball of his career. Every coach is non-negotiable.
And every coach loves him because he's going to operate the system perfectly. So if you design good stuff, it's going to look really good. And he's going to have a market, but it is interesting because of this injury. And we're going to be talking about so much Achilles stuff in the next 9 months between him and Rodgers. I mean, it's going to be ridiculous.
Brandon Thorne, covers the offensive line better than anybody. It's his corner. He does a great job with it. He was on with you and Dane a couple weeks ago on Prospects to Pros. He was mentioning that Kirk is just so good for offensive linemen. He gets to the same point in his drop every single time and gets rid of the ball quickly. So that's the type of stuff we're talking about here, is that other elements of who you are offensively just start to erode a little bit, even if you drop someone else in there who is a workable quarterback. So it's a tough blow. I mean, there's really just no coming back from it this year, and it'll be influential potentially on what their future plans look like. Let's talk some more quarterbacks here. Let's get to the Titans, the quarterback situations, let's say, in the Titans-Falcons game today. Let's start with Will Levis. 4 touchdown passes for Will Levis. 8.2 yards per attempt for Will Levis today. What a weird game. The conversation around it, I think, is understandable. Will Levis throws 4 touchdowns in his debut. It's like, oh, here we go. We were all so wrong about Will Levis. He should have gotten an opportunity earlier, Will Levis. There were some really nice elements of the way that he played. I also think it's very, very important to add some context to what Will Levis's stat line looked like and why. Yeah.
There was a lot of, that was one of the screens on my multi-screen when I was working around trying to get the Cowboys game, and then went off and I was fine with it. But then down to down basis, it didn't feel like they moved the ball. And then even after the game, I was like, Levis, I got to watch that game on all 22 because I want to see how he kind of was looking at everything. Finishes with 4 touchdowns. Really didn't feel like it. But I mean, obviously you saw the scores, but I'm just saying that didn't feel like one of those kind of performances. But again, kind of have to watch all 22 on this one because I want to see how he processed, how he looked at stuff, especially over the middle. He had a couple flashes, like one touchdown throw was nice. He had one throw to the sidelines that was nice awkward angle. I think this game was fun. That it was a rare 4 quarterback game, which is there's an ancient Rome 4 emperor joke there somewhere. That's really appealing to everybody with that humor right there. But I think that
you're crushing it, buddy.
I know this is just good. 9:30 on a Sunday. This is what we do. But but I think the Malik Willis had that bot snap. Here comes Levis. It really just this game felt so stoppy starty. I think the best player of the whole game was Stonehouse.
He was incredible. He was absolutely incredible.
God, he boomed them. And honestly, it was a field position game. Like this felt like a field position game. And again, another race to explosive plays because some decent defense, even if the score didn't indicate that.
The only team with a worse passing success rate in week 8 so far than the Tennessee Titans was the New York Giants. That's it. Okay. So they had the second worst passing success
rate. Was it like in the 30s?
31.3.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what it felt
down
like.
to down. It's not like the Titans were moving the ball that consistently. These are huge plays that we're talking about. And the huge plays were often them moving the pocket on play action and getting him into launch mode. The guy is a cannon. We know that. So there are going to be some beautiful moments when they're allowing him to do that. And you saw that. Double moves, moving the pocket, just throwing the ball downfield. He had 2 other deep shots that the placement on them was gorgeous. He had one to Treylon Burks down the right sideline and another one down the left sideline that could have been huge plays. But that's what it was. It was him just kind of getting back there and getting in bombs away mode. The last touchdown off his back foot, but just drifting a little bit.
Yeah.
That placement was
he kind of throws like that.
That's how he throws.
He does a little fade away when he throws.
That's how he throws.
Yeah,
and so we know that. We know the guy has a ton of talent, but that's what this game was like. I thought the most telling number, he had 25% of his attempts that came behind the line of scrimmage, and 28% of his attempts were 20 or more yards downfield. So 50% of his throws were either screens or chucks. Only 4 games like that all season so far. And one of them was today with Will Levis.
Pure layups and threes. Not but threes, though. It was like from 30 feet out. Just logo threes only. But he hit all of them. And they were beautiful. They're beautiful.
Good game plan. That's how you should use him.
Yes.
But I'm going to
help your O-line. And help out. There's residual effects for it. No, it was a good game plan.
I thought it was a very good game plan. Yeah. I thought it was a very good game plan, but just let's take a breath. Let's get some more Will Levis reps under our belt.
Especially when you see just the highlights, you know how they do it, where they're like, oh, this is a score of the game. They show like 2 highlights for the package. And it's like, oh my God, if you saw those, you're like, holy crap, those the highest of highlights. So I could see how it made an impact if you didn't watch every down.
He had a 3rd and 4 completion to Chiggs on the right side, to the right side, that was in rhythm, and it was a really nice, like, in rhythm throw, huge moment in the game, 3rd and 4 in the second half. That's the type of stuff where it's like, okay, that's like real quarterback play. But a lot of the highlights today are just him showing off his arm, which we know is very good. So to be determined.
Yes.
To be determined. Good initial returns to be determined. On the other side of the ball, we have some potential intrigue here and what's happening with the Falcons quarterback situation.
Yeah.
They come out in the second half. Desmond Ridder is not out there. A lot of people A lot of people take this as a benching, that this is it. We finally have reached the end, the turnovers, the negative plays. That's it for Desmond Ridder. It's Taylor Heineke time in Atlanta. After the game, Arthur Smith comes out, says that while Ridder was cleared, they didn't want to push it. Taylor Heineke, when asked about this, this is Desmond Ridder's team. This is Desmond's team. I'm not the starter. So it does feel like this was a temporary thing based on the game, based on health, more than it was about performance. Doesn't surprise me. What would have surprised me is if they had benched him based on everything that Arthur Smith had said and based on some of the moments where they didn't do it earlier in the game. So I think this is much truer to the process that they've shown. And I believe them when they say that this was not a performance-based thing. If he's killing it, maybe they put him back in the game. But I don't think this is we're pulling the ripcord on the Desmond Ridder experience kind of conclusion that comes from this.
Yeah, and he was another game I want to look at all 22. Just this game period, both sides of the ball, unbelievable. But it's I think he took 5 sacks on the day, and a couple of them felt O-line or protection based. But I felt like one that maybe pulled the trigger, or maybe a second early. And sometimes that's when he could become his own worst enemy. And I think maybe sometimes it's too. It's like, okay, you have a concussion. might have a concussion. Okay, maybe this is a good excuse to not let you spiral, to not let you make some bad, because he's had some nice moments. He moved the ball a couple nice, mostly to Drake London today, but Jeffrey Simmons just, he's light. If he gets his arm hit and he's getting his arm grazed and he's fumbling, it's like, again, you can't have these turnovers. And again, it's after they're moving the ball. And again, he has another turnover. It's like, but that can't happen.
We're going to have to have a conversation about this at some point. And, and I do think that down to down, it's been good enough to warrant some faith and to warrant sticking with him.
Yes.
But we're so often now, we're coming away from these games. They lost 12 EPA on sacks today.
Mm-hmm.
So each week it feels like it's either, they lost 14 EPA on turnovers. They lost 12 EPA on sacks. So they have all these negative plays that are just an anvil around their ankle every single week. So it's frustrating to watch because every single week it seems like it's something else, whether it's sacks or turnovers, whatever. So I agree that the down-to-down performance has warranted them sticking with him. And I think it would be weird if they yanked him after this game when we've seen some worse performances down to down than he played today. But I still think it's just worth keeping an eye on. Like at a certain point, like the season gets lost if you're giving away 2 touchdowns a game for one reason or another.
Yeah. Hold on. Are we talking about the offensive line or are we talking about Ritter's turnovers here?
I think it's just some element of the offense torpedoing them every single week. It's not necessarily Desmond Ridder. Today it was just protection issues. Some on him, some on the offensive line. But the fact that there's like something that's just destroying them every single game. Today it was sacks. Last week it was turnovers. It's not all him, but it's just a frustrating offense to watch for that reason specifically.
Yeah, no, I get it. Trust me, as someone that like enjoys a lot of the stuff they do and then seeing the end result, it's very frustrating. I don't know. Again, I thought he has these moments, but again, I can't make excuses for turning the ball over, and I hope it normalizes. But then there's also moments where I'm like, hey, you're skinny. So that's going to happen too. So you might just be one of those guys. Dante Culpepper was a guy that had a lot of fumbles too, because he had small hands. And that was just a thing with him. And he was aggressive and all that. It's like sometimes your place down, sometimes your frame just create those things. So just curious if that's a thing with him. But again, when I look at him, even just not even in terms of success rate, look at him on third down, look at him when he's not pressured, making the right decisions most of the time, like good decisions too. He's good against the blitz. Even some pressure doesn't really affect him. He'll take a shot. It's just like, I'm willing to bet on that because I know what Heineke is. It felt like the commentary was live for me for about 5 minutes. They're like, Heineke gave a spark to this offense. The run game gave a spark to the offense in the second half. And then Heineke did some nice things. We know what Heineke is. I like Heineke. I love Heineke. I know what he is though. So I'd rather bet on Ridder and some of the stuff and sustainability that I've seen. But again, it's just hard with turnovers. So it's going to be the same thing until he changes that tune.
We talked about this after the Jags game. You cut off the development plan if you drop Taylor Heineke in there.
Right.
It is a known quantity in ways both good and bad. And I just don't think it's worth making that sort of bet. But again, if we're leaving every single one of these games and having a very similar conversation, we're like, man, the offense had some really nice moments, but they gave up 6 sacks and lost 2 touchdowns worth of EPA. Man, the offense had some really nice moments, but they turned over the ball 3 times in the red zone and lost 14 points of EPA. You lose the season. And I don't think that's necessarily on Desmond Ridder, but it feels like that could be the direction this is headed if they played in any other division except the NFC South.
Yeah, they have an easy schedule, and I think the process has been good. Like I watch this every time, and I'm ready to get mad and just say like, "Oh my god, all my takes have been wrong." And I'm like, I don't know. I love the stuff they do, and that's why I think it'll right itself over the terms of the season. And they're still 4-4, and in this weak division, and with a weak schedule. So that's why I think they'll right themselves. And the defense is playing well. The defense is playing good ball. Like Falcons defense is fun to watch.
Again, down to down today, fine. Just some really bad splash plays. I mean, AJ Terrell gets caught up with DeAndre Hopkins on that long touchdown. It's a weird game, but
it was a weird game. It was a Titans game. It was a Titans game. That's what it was. Yeah, it absolutely was. I will say Heineke's touchdown throw to Scotty Miller was sick. I will say that was a sweet ball. I'll give him that one. I like Heineke. I do.
But again, we know what he is, and I think that's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Let's stick with weird games. The Seahawks win a wild one, 24-20 over the Browns. We have to talk about this game just because it is very important in the playoff race. Like the Browns are right there on the edge of the AFC wild card. The Seahawks are now lead the NFC West. I don't know what grand conclusions I have coming out of this game. Like my number one feeling coming out of this is that the Browns with a backup quarterback in there have to live in such slim margins. They could have easily lost the last 2 that they just won in the winning streak that they were on. They easily could have won this game. You have some PJ Walker moments that are solid, and then you have him just botching pretty simple 3rd and short decisions multiple different times in this game. You have a 3rd and 3 moment at the end where they decide to throw it. It bounces off of Jamal Adams' helmet, and they probably win that game if that doesn't happen. So I just don't know what to make of them, because the defense, again, outside of the first quarter, was fantastic again today. It gave them every chance to win. They did such a great job, I think, just creating easy buttons within the offense. Screens again, great designs in the run game, just manufacturing offense with the backup quarterback. But you still have to make 3, 4, 5 plays within the game. And today those didn't happen. So it just feels like they're going to be a team that is in every single one of these games, but every single one of them could go either way because the margins are so small for Cleveland.
It in a weird way, it kind of feels like they're a much better version of the Giants last year. But it's like, no, not really. I mean, on offense right now, as far as how Daniel Jones was used and PJ Walker, as far as the offense is, it's a lot of stuff that he can read simply. And I mean that in 4x1 sets where it is truly, if it's zone or you think it's zone, read the zone side, which is the 4-man side. If you like your one-on-one, you have a Amari Cooper one-on-one, throw him a slant. And that is as easy as it comes, man or zone tells. But again, like you said, it's screens, it's quick game. There is a cap to this. You can artificially, create some offense with it. Maybe your opening script is really good, but there's a cap to it all unless some bonkers plays happen. And when you're playing a good team, like I think the Seahawks are, you only get so many chances. Like they gave them some chances. They gave them a turnover. It's just like that was after they're moving the ball again, and you only get that so many times. And I think the Seahawks had a good day. Like I think that was my biggest turnaround or takeaway was the Seahawks run game kind of really, really kind of like having not only an efficient day, but an explosive day. This was their best day this season in terms of both success rate.
That Charbonnet play in the fourth quarter helped swing the game. I mean, they probably don't win the game without that.
He's a zone running machine, man. Charbonnet. Oh man, he's good on those zone runs. So it's fun. I love him and Kenneth Walker. I know Kenneth Walker got banged up. But having DK Metcalf, even if he had kind of a battle with Emerson today, feeling having him back's a good thing though. And you got like even just the Tennessee breakers they do, like the Jake Bobo touchdown was sweet because they use him so much. Jake Bobo was great, guys. He's so much fun, but they use him as a blocker. He's a dirty work guy, and they use him on jet motion over and over and over, especially in the red zone. And then they just handed him the ball and it's a touchdown. It's sometimes football is like that, but you build up a tendency and they break it. So you're kind of showing off some good kind of awareness from the staff, of course. So, and Gino, again, he had the turnover, but man, like that 2-minute drive, he had some moments of creation. The Tyler Lockett touchdown. It's like, oh man, Seahawks, man, like just they're a good team. I love watching them.
Gino, this is the perfect Gino Rorschach game. Perfect. Yeah. People who don't like Gino are going to look at this game. He had 2 picks. Could almost had a game-sealing one to Cam Mitchell at the end that probably should have sealed this thing away. So if you are not a Gino guy, you're looking at this and saying, oh, he threw almost 3 interceptions. I mean, he cost them the game, but he also had some really nice moments again. So I, again, tend to think that what he is down for them and what this offense can look like is worth betting on in the long run. But some troubling decisions again in this game in a stretch where there's been some, right? Like he has been loose with the football over the last few weeks. Like that's just, there's no other way to put it.
I think sometimes that's why I'm really excited to see this run game improve, because now when it's like, you're not feeling it, or you're trying a little too much, okay, this could settle us. We can create yards and explosives, not through just our receivers and designs and everything. And when you have some sustainability, again, they have the ability to pivot. But I love the high end stuff that Gino can do. It's like, it's worth it. It's worth some of the risks he takes because just the stuff he creates. And when you have the weapons they have and the designs they do, it's like, like that again, it's about creating explosive plays right now. It's good defense and explosive plays on offense. It's old school football in its weird way with modern offenses, but they can do it, and Gino can do it. That's why I love this team.
Yeah, they're 5-2. I mean, I think that there are reasons to be very excited about what they can be. The Browns defense is still really good. They had a decent amount of success against them. It wasn't a gangbusters type game, but they were middle of the pack in success rate, the way they moved the ball today. So I think, again, reasons to be encouraged about where Seattle is. Another impressive win today was what the Jags did to the Pittsburgh Steelers, including another huge game from Travis Etienne, 149 all-purpose yards from scrimmage, a huge touchdown catch in this game. He has been a real weapon for them as they've kind of sought out explosive plays within that offense. And we talked about it at the beginning a little bit, but just another entry in this Jags team kind of showing off the different pitches they have as they try to assert themselves in the hierarchy in the AFC.
Again, even when it's tough sledding on the ground, you're going against a good defense and the Steelers defense. It's again creating explosives, and he's a walking, talking explosive play machine, running the ball and catching the ball. Like, he could be inconsistent. He's just so wild. Like, he's just crazy legs. It's just everywhere. But he also just bounds forward, gallops forward. Like, he's just 5 yards, it feels like, at each bound. But the touchdown was perfect. The receiving touchdown, I should say. And I loved Trevor's aggressiveness. This is Travis Etienne's speed and what he brings, even as a receiver. His hands are iffy, his ball skills. He's not the most reliable pass catcher, even though he has good receiving stats. It could be iffy, but it's a great play there. Is that the Steelers love being in Palms coverage, which is it plays out like cover 4 until it plays out like cover 2. And when it plays out like cover 2 is the number 2 receiver, the slot receiver, runs an out route. And the Jags are an empty. They run stick. They have Travis Etienne all the way outside. Steelers corner goes running back. Okay, eyes inside. I'm jumping this stick route if they come right at me. I got this. Etienne, having speed, beats the safety's angle because that turns into cover 2. They're trying to trap that stick route. Instead, Etienne's on the go ball. So it's his speed, Trevor's just aggressiveness. He's willing to throw this and make these throws. But it's just awesome. So, but again, it's Etienne's explosiveness, Trevor's willingness to throw it, and just having that everyone runs stick. But now you're hitting the top item, the top option on this play. And that's what this Jaguars offense can do. I think this team's really, really good because of the stuff they can do like this.
It's funny. You go back, they hit a very, very similar play for a touchdown against the Ravens last year, where it was JaMychal Hasty as the number 1 receiver out of empty. And they got Marcus Peters on it, where they tried to get him in the flat with cheese and then they had JaMychal Hasty going down the right sideline. So slightly different design, but very similar idea.
Yeah.
And very similar overall structure.
It's the best.
Trevor today.
I know what you know, what I know, what you know, what I know. No, it was one of those. It was a good one.
I think that play is more of a Marcus Peters play. I think this play is more of a structure play. If I was betting on why they would run those specific situations. Structure,
and then making sure they smell it. They're like, hey, see Etienne all the way out here. Yeah, make sure you could see the play unfolding. So it was good.
There was a play that throw was great from Trevor. My favorite throw of his today. He had a ball to Calvin Ridley on like a big over route, and the placement on it, he puts it low and away from the safety while stepping up in the pocket. Just gorgeous, perfect touch on that ball. Again, this is a game in the rain.
Yeah.
And he had some really nice moments. So just stacking them up, just stacking these things together.
Good
if you're
wins.
The Jags. 6-2.
Yeah.
Listen,
at Pittsburgh.
Big win. Someone was smart enough to pick them in our wins league. Someone was smart enough to grab them near the end of the draft. So
stock rising to the moon.
Comment for that guy.
To the moon. I got Trevor in the QB draft, so I'm okay. I'm all right. I can enjoy this as much. I got plenty of Jag stock.
Speaking of our drafts that we do positionally, the first one that we did was 2021.
Okay.
The non-quarterback draft. I took AJ Brown 5th. This was very early in the AJ Brown experience. I took him 5th. People thought I was insane. Okay, for taking AJ Brown 5th among all non-quarterbacks at that stage. I'd say it would have worked out okay for my hypothetical team. He is insane. And what he was for the Titans, just talking through the whole process as to why I did that 2 years ago. I went back and I watched the game he played against the Ravens in the playoffs that year and some of the stuff that he was doing against Marlon Humphrey. And I was like, this guy isn't just a yak merchant. Like, he is a real full-blown, like, star level receiver in all these different facets. And I believe that he will be like one of the best players in the league over the next few years. What he is right now at the catch point. Last year, there were a lot of go balls and stuff like that. The vertical element to his game is what was standing out. Today, he's been, I think, the best contested catch receiver in the entire NFL so far this season. So you have the yak stuff. Last year, he's a go ball monster. And this year, every time you throw the ball up to him in 50-50 situations, it seems like he's coming down with it. He now has 6 straight games with at least 125 yards receiving, which is an NFL record. I mean, the guy has been, I think, arguably the best non-quarterback in all of football this year. And that leads me to what is going to be an incredible conversation, argument, race for offensive player of the year this year. Think about what A.J. Brown is doing, what Tyreek Hill is doing for the Dolphins, and what Christian McCaffrey is doing for the Niners. Like, I can't remember a collection of like singular offensive seasons happening at the same time that feels like this one does.
Yeah, it's especially, again, when defenses are very tough right now, seeing these kind of guys really just dominate games and morph their whole offense. I mean, the Eagles without AJ Brown, they've had some lack of sustainability through the air right now. That isn't, hey, AJ Brown, get the ball, like some way, shape, or form, either designed or off script, deep, short, whatever it is. And he's having a fantastic season. Like, you feel his impact all the time. Every drive, every ball near him in the red zone, it's like, oh, he's catching that. It's the Moss feeling. You know how Randy used to be, where it was just like, oh, he's coming down with the ball 90% of the time, unless it's against Peanut Tillman in like 2003. But it's having said all that, like, he is one of 3 players right now, if the season ended, or I'm sorry, he would be the 4th player to have a yards per route run over 3 yards. He's at 3.13. Cooper Kupp was at 3.12 in 2021. He is at 14.3% first downs per route, which would be the 5th highest through that 2013. The problem is Tyreek Hill is at 18.9%, which would be the highest ever, 3.2% over anyone ever. And then on top of it, he's averaging 4.26 yards per route run. He's over 1,000 yards already, on pace for 2,000, which shatter all efficiency records, every record. So AJ Brown is so dominant, and then it just happens to be in the same year that Tyreek Hill is doing this week in, week out.
All 3 of these guys, teams traded for them.
Yeah.
All 3 of these guys were acquired. And the moves to go get Tyreek Hill and AJ Brown, not exaggeration to say they were franchise-changing moves. Like, it has changed the trajectory of who the Dolphins and the Eagles are, going out and making those moves. And for the Eagles, it's just so fascinating that it almost didn't happen. If they had signed Allen Robinson, if like so many different things had gone down, AJ Brown would not be an Eagle right now. And him landing on the Eagles changed who they are, changed who Jalen Hurts is. I mean, just think about the butterfly effect of that happening. It changed the Titans. I mean, just so many different things kind of attached to that trade. And watching that offensive player of the year race is going to be fantastic. Yeah. Not even just offense this year, I just feel like we've gotten such incredible individual performances from non-quarterbacks. I believe this in my bones. It is ridiculous to me that the NFL does not have a most outstanding player award. Earlier this season, people were talking about the season that J.J. Watt had in 2014. And J.J. Watt had 2 years, 2012 and 2014, that are the most dominant statistical years you can imagine from a defensive player. I mean, Aaron Donald has been unbelievable over the last 5-6 seasons, but what J.J. Watt did in those specific years was insane. And J.J. Watt came out when someone was saying he should have won the MVP that year and was like, no, like, the MVP has to be a quarterback. The MVP has to be a quarterback in the modern era. It is impossible to be more valuable than a quarterback is based on the way the game is being played. And I agree with that, which means it's stupid. It is stupid that the most prestigious award in the NFL has to go to a quarterback. Like, there should be some way as we get to the end of the year to look at every performance that a player put up that season and say, that was the best guy. That was the best player compared to his peers of the position, just the most outstanding player. Like, that should
team, right? And they have 2 teams.
You're one of an all-pro team. But like, there should be a way to go back to 2012, and we have a way to mark in history that J.J. Watt was the best player in the NFL in 2012. Not just the best defensive player, the best player. And I think this season, to me, is just another reminder that that should exist. Like, the conversations we should have around it, the arguments that we could have around it, every single layer to if that thing was a thing would be good for the sport. And I just truly believe that it should be a thing.
As someone that loves all the arbitrary, it's not arbitrary, but all the Big Ten position awards that are named after 2 people. So it's just like every award has 2 names with it. So a running back award was this, Grange, George, I think, is the running back of year award, and all the college football awards. I've always wanted that for the NFL. I think the All-Pro team does a nice job of doing it, but I do like the argument I like having an award where it is both, all players considered, if that makes sense, not quarterbacks, I guess. So I do like having that element to it. I do want to make Offensive Player of the Year just truly the non-quarterback award, just make it official. Get the other quarterbacks out of there. Okay. I just think I want to make that more of official. I also want to make some slot voting. I also want to make 3 all-pro teams. I also think that, we're 32 teams. NBA's got 3 teams. We can do this. We pay enough
I think 3 all-pro teams is a good one. And I agree. If you make offensive player of the year non-quarterbacks, then you have an offensive player of the year and a defensive player of the year that's not quarterback. But I still think the moments that you would have, like a JJ Watt type season that he had over those couple of years, some of the Aaron Donald seasons that we've had, that standing of if you could be the best player in the league, if you beat out the MVP, the quarterback who won MVP, if you beat out the offensive player of the year, if you did it as a defensive player, those instances where it happened, it would be worth having the award because it would be so cool.
Right. I like that because of this, because it's both sides of the ball. I love the Outland Trophy in college because it's defensive and offensive line. So just like that, I would love that for sports or for the NFL as well. Like all that. Kessler just dropped a little CMC stat real quick. He's like he's second in success rate in rushing. So we already know he's just a fantastic running back. 14 explosive plays, but also extremely good as a route runner, as we know. But he's like basically Chris Olave or Mark Andrews this year as a receiver, as far as efficiency wise. So you have a top 20-ish, no matter how you dice it, pass catcher with the second best runner as far as efficiency, not behind the Eagles offensive line, the best one. I would say that. And I wouldn't say, I know Nick Chubb gets this designation a lot, the best pure runner thing. Watch CMC tote the rock. This dude is
he's
awesome.
been incredible this year.
Oh my God. I'm getting flashbacks because they do so much gap and so much polar stuff from his Stanford days. And it's so much fun watching him operate on that stuff because he does it to a T. We just talked about Kirk Cousins, like teach tape. Everything's perfect. That's Christian McCaffrey running the football. So want to give him a shout out as well. I know we just gave AJ Brown and Tyreek Hill a bunch of love, but CMC is phenomenal as well. He is the non-quarterback MVP. He is on the short list, definitely.
It's going to be a fun conversation as we get toward the back half of the season. A lot of stuff worth following as we get to week 9. Great slate of games. Fun day today. Woo. That is all we got. Please come back and check out Kiefer and the Beats in the Athletic Football Show feed tomorrow. Michael Sean Dugar, who covers the Seahawks for us, on to chat about them. John Machota, who covers the Cowboys, talking about their big win. And Nate Taylor, our Chiefs writer at the Athletic, coming on to talk about a bad day for the Chiefs and where they stand as we get toward the halfway point. For now, that is all we've got. Sincerely appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you soon.